All right, well, let's catch up on the news. I mean, obviously, the big story was the Supreme Court ruling that came out the other day that everybody was talking about. We'll get into it, but let's describe it here a little bit. That former President Trump cannot be barred from Colorado's primary ballot under the 14th Amendment. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously on Monday. It's a major win, according to Axios here, for the GOP presidential frontrunner, and it paves the way for him to appear on the ballot nationwide, despite facing eligibility challenges in dozens of states. The court's decision comes a day before Super Tuesday, which is today, obviously, when more than a dozen states, including Colorado, will hold primary contests. The Supreme Court wrote in a decision, because the Constitution makes Congress rather than the states responsible for enforcing Section 3 against federal office holders and candidates, we reverse. So they reversed the original decision that said that they could keep them off the ballot. I'd also like to point out that this lawsuit in Colorado, which is generally a blue state, or it has been, it was brought on by Republicans and independents. It was not brought on by Democrats. People would be surprised to hear that, but the news doesn't really point that out as much. So, you know, it's important to know that people in their own party did not want this guy on the ballot. The court also warned of chaos from conflicting state outcomes if a candidate could be removed from the ballot in some states, but not others. Part of that you can agree with, especially with this whacked out Congress that we have, because now all of a sudden, you know, oh, you did it to my guy, I'm going to find a way to do it to your guy. And, you know, some crazy Supreme Court in Alabama. We have already seen that there are some crazy Supreme Courts, and specifically in Alabama, may rule that Joe Biden didn't protect the border well enough, so we are going to keep him on. Just dumb shit. So I think what stood out for me, Lana, is that almost every law expert that I heard said we do not expect them to rule in favor of Colorado. We expect them to rule in favor, in essence, for Donald Trump. But then when the ruling came out, everybody acted shocked that it happened. I mean,
that is weird, because we knew, but like, if you heard the oral argument as well, you knew that they were, I mean, the guy wasn't that great for the state of Colorado. He just really was not. And
he sounded like a Trump lawyer.
He wasn't good. Right, exactly. And you could just tell, even with Ketanji's questions, like, she's like, no. And it makes sense. We don't like it.
Right.
But it makes sense. You're right. You cannot have a patchwork of each state. Just be like, okay, I don't think you should. Or it just, it needs to be a ruling, and that's not how we want to be Donald Trump anyway. We want to fucking just whop his ass.
Right. I mean, you know, on one end of it, you're like, yeah, of course this motherfucker should not be on a ballot. He legitimately caused an insurrection. Now, another thing from this ruling that stood out is that they did not rule against Donald Trump being an insurrectionist. They did not say that he wasn't. So that's, I don't know if that's important. I don't know if that's a sign or anything that where people can look at that and maybe surmise what they will rule coming up. I mean, now the next one, if there's any possible way they come back and say that a president can do basically whatever he wants to, if that happens, then I think our whole system's done. I think we're just done as a country. I just don't see how we move forward, and especially if Donald Trump somehow wins the election.
And how could they be here investigating Biden for an impeachment if then they turn around and be like, oh, presidents are immune, so what's the problem with Biden? Like, I mean, there's no problem with him anyway. It's a fake investigation. But Republicans are right now arguing two opposing thoughts. They're saying, yeah, we're arguing presidents are immune, Donald Trump's immune, but we're also saying Biden committed all these crimes. He needs to be impeached. It's like,
Lana, are you talking about the same party that said that January 6th initially was Black Lives Matter and BLM or Antifa, and then it was the CIA, and then it was I don't know. I can't even remember all the different excuses they came up with, but that's the Republican Party, and it's basically the Steve Bannon playbook, and he said it himself. Just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. That's all he wants to do. He wants to muddy the waters, get people so confused. And boy, sometimes I do talk to people who I'm not even sure are political. But when I hear their opinions and I hear them come out of their mouths, it shocks me, I think, because I do follow it. But the reality sets in for the people who look at it from the periphery and maybe look at it on TikTok and memes, what their thoughts are. I was talking to a young lady that works with me. She doesn't do the same thing I do, but she was talking about how terrible the economy was and it's just crashing. And I was like, that's actually complete opposite of what's happening. She's like, no, it isn't. I said, well, I'm not trying to talk down here, but I'm just telling you it's my job legitimately to know how the economy is booming. Right. Now, we do have issues on the mortgage side because of the rates and stuff like that we're still working on, but that's not Joe Biden's fault. I know that. I'm smart enough to understand that is not his fault.
Exactly.
So, anyway, Donald Trump hears this and he thinks he just won something. He thinks that everything is done and all his troubles have gone away.
Yeah.
Of course, he had to hold some press conference and he came out and rambled on about how he did what he did to save the country. You're rolling your eyes because you don't want to hear him. And really, I don't either. But it is what I'm hoping is, Lana, at this point, is that we're getting in the months of hearing the last from this guy. I don't know if it's the last of MAGA, but it's going to be the months of the last of this guy. I'm convinced of it. We'll get into that a little bit later. But here he is.
That's good.
And we were fighting for 20 years against ISIS, and we did it very quickly. I don't want to be prosecuted. In that case, it worked out very well. There will be some things that perhaps don't work out so well.
I think he kind of just admitted there that he even knows that there's no way the Supreme Court is coming back. He might even got a signal because, Lana, would you be crazy or would I be crazy to think that Donald Trump has been in contact with these justices?
Exactly. Just like we know that he's talking with Eileen Cannon or his people are.
Yep. Yeah.
And you're right. That could be a signal because he did say he does a thing maybe or maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as stupid as he is, I think it's possible that maybe he even says to himself, I mean, a president can't do whatever he wants. I mean, that justice had a pretty damn good question about SEAL Team 6 murdering somebody. Or is he stupid enough to think that if they rule in his favor in a way, that Joe Biden will just say, okay, then I'm arresting you right now and throwing you in jail?
I mean, hopefully his attorneys are explaining it to him. Like,
does that matter though?
I know that's true, but like, you being immune is a long shot. Like that's just one of the things that we're throwing at the wall. You're not really going to get it, but like you said, he probably was in contact, and Clarence Thomas was like, dude, I don't even know if I could do anything for you in this one. He's like, I can dissent,
right,
but that's all I can give you because they're not going to do it.
But I would not be shocked if Clarence Thomas isn't the lone person that says, nah, he's good. But all right,
like him and what's the Alito or somebody.
Yeah, yep. The countdown to not listening to this clown again. Let's just finish this off.
Okay.
But I don't want to be prosecuted because I decided to do something that is very much for the good of the country and actually for the good of the world.
Did it for the world.
The president shouldn't have that on his mind, and he has to have a free and clear mind when he makes very big decisions, or it's going to be nothing more than a ceremonial post. You'll be president, it'll be a wonderful thing, and you won't do anything because you don't want to be hit by your opponent or hit by somebody else, because who wants to leave office and go through what I've gone through?
Yeah, low energy, by the way, not the regular Donald Trump. He kind of put a little effort into that. I think he just hears his name on TV and he hears the words big win for Donald Trump. So he's like, oh, I got to go out and say something and piggyback off of this.
Yeah. Did you think he like had that suit on already and he's just like, let me get ready? Or does he like just put like does he walk around with that? And granted, I don't think he has it cleaned at all.
I think he sleeps in it.
I think he just puts on the same one over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people saying that he is huge on Adderall. And also, if you saw the Rolling Stone story, apparently drugs were, I mean, rampant in the White House while during his administration. And you know, they want to talk about the cocaine thing in the White House, but apparently in that White House, the drug use was just out of control. And these were prescribed drugs from the doctors.
Was it Dr. Ronnie Jackson?
Dr. Ronnie Jackson.
What do y'all need?
Yeah. But yeah, he apparently is an Adderall guy, and I don't know how many hours of sleep he gets.
Snorted?
Huh?
Like, do you snort? Is he snorting Adderalls and just taking it like?
Donald, well, if you know, a lot of the online sleuths, if you will, would always look at Donald Trump. I mean, you know, he always does that sniffing thing all the time.
Right.
And I think they kind of put that together and think that he's a sniffer of the Adderall. There's other people that worked on The Apprentice that's on Twitter that swear up and down, and they almost dare him to sue him, that swear up and down that they saw him do it all the time, you know, so I don't know. And I will be honest with you, that's really on the level of importance to me when it comes to Donald Trump is really on the low scale, you know, and we could talk about a million more things about Donald Trump other than his alleged drug use.
DA said he's Donald Trump's crack dealer. So. Yeah,
we actually we have breaking news. We have Donald Trump's crack dealer watching the show. I'm glad he's using just his Twitter name, DA. Thank you, and not your real name, because.
Oh my God! So how much crack did you sell to him?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing you didn't mention your name, because there's a possibility that Donald Trump has somehow he has Elon Musk looking at everybody's, you know, anytime anybody mentions a name, whether it's small or little, that the, you know.
He said he's not his.
Oh, he was. Okay. Well, then you're safe. Yeah. Yeah. You're safe. You have no issues then.